Lately, I have been scrolling through the internet and I stumbled upon someone who completely caught my attention. A man currently convicted of murder. Now, before you jump to the conclusion, let me clarify it's not officially claimed that he is the killer. But right now, that's what he's been convicted for. I know, it sounds crazy to even say it out loud. But hear me out. This man is ridiculously handsome, like you stop in your track and forget what you were doing. That kind of handsome. The kind of face you wouldn't expect to be plastered across headlines for a crime. And yet, there he is, blamed for killing a CEO. It's not that I am justifying it. Any murder is a murder after all. But it's hard to ignore the way internet has been buzzing. He's not the type of person you just glance and move on. No, you will catch yourself staring, scrolling, and maybe even questioning why you are so captivated by someone accused of such a terrible thing. It's strange how someone so devastatingly attractive could do something so devastating. A face that could still hurts, and yet here he is, blamed for taking a life. It's the kind of story that makes you wonder about him, the CEO, and the everything lead to that moment. And let's be honest, I can't help myself, I have to talk about him. Do you ever wondered what drives someone to cross the line? What makes an ordinary person snap? That's exactly what crossed my mind when I first heard about Luigi Mangione. If he truly did what media say, this wasn't just an act of violence. It was precise, calculated, and shocking. According to reporters, he walked into one of the most powerful corporations in America wearing a mask and made a decision that changed everything. The man who was killed wasn't just anyone. It's the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, the insurance division of United Health Group, the CEO of one of the largest healthcare systems in the nation. This is a company allegedly accused of denying treatments, driving families into financial ruins, and assuming billions in profits while ordinary people struggle to make ends meet. To some, allegedly actions of Mangione painted him as a monster, a face for the growing outrage against a system that so many feel powerless to escape. I couldn't stop thinking about this. Was he driven by rage, depression, or was something more? A calculated stand against corporate greed. And what does it mean when people start calling an alleged killer a hero? Mangione's story isn't just about an alleged murder. It's about the cracks in a system, the breaking points we all have, and the uncomfortable question we are often too afraid to ask. So, was Luigi Mangione really the man behind the mask? And if so, what pushed him to this breaking point? More importantly, what does his story reveal about us and the world we are living in? So, the CEO of UnitedHealthcare had been murdered, a headline that hits like a lightning bolt. But here's the twist. The alleged killer wasn't just any criminal. It was a man who suddenly found himself at the center of national attention. People weren't just shocked, they were curious, even sympathetic. This wasn't a random act. Mangione had allegedly targeted someone at the very top of the system that so many feel powerless against. And remarkably, some even start to call him a hero. And you know what? At first, according to resources, we all knew was that he allegedly had done that unthinkable. Walked into one of the most powerful buildings in the country and allegedly killed the CEO. No one saw it coming. And the shockwaves were immediate and overwhelming. But here's the twist. But as the news spread, something unexpected happened. People weren't just horrified, they were intrigued. They were fascinated. People start talking about Luigi not as the alleged killer, but as a hero. And you might be thinking, how could anyone see him that way? Well, that's what makes this whole story so wild. Suddenly, pictures of him began to surface. One of him eating McDonald's, looking like an ordinary guy. The kind of person you could pass on the street without ever guessing who he really was. People weren't seeing him as a convicted murderer. No, they saw him as someone who had done something people had been too afraid to do themselves. He had gone after the CEO, the very face of the broken healthcare system that so many people have been struggling with for years. It felt like public was saying, finally, someone stood up to them. Now I know it sounds insane, right? Because killing someone is never the answer. But think about it. If this man allegedly killed the head of one of the most powerful companies, a company that profits from people's pain, it's no surprise that people start to see him as some kind of symbol. And then the weirdest thing happened. It was everywhere. Social media was flooded with the support for him. Some said he is cute, and another said he did what we all wanted to do. I remember reading that and thinking, is this real? Are we really praising an alleged killer like this? But it wasn't just about the murder anymore, it was about the system. People were fed up. Healthcare costs were skyrocketing, insurance premiums were outrageous, and when you need help, it seemed they were more focused on profit than the actual care. So when Luigi Manzioni allegedly took out the CEO, to many it feels like a win. A direct hit on a system that's been falling for years. The person who killed the CEO didn't just randomly pick the target. And the CEO wasn't some unlucky individual in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, according to the news, it was a calculated move. Although it's not proven yet, still Manzioni knew what he was doing. But no one walks in gun blazing and wear a mask to hide their identity without a plan. It makes you wonder, was this a man who had lost everything, and was he someone who saw an opportunity to stand up and say enough? Here's the thing that stuck with me the most. This wasn't just a crime. It was a message. It was a cry for help for someone who had been crushed by an allegedly broken system that didn't care about that people. Manzioni wasn't some villain out of a movie. He was someone who had lived in that world, perhaps suffered because of it, and maybe even watched his loved ones suffer too. And as the investigation continued, the more details about the crime scenes came to light, and it became clear this wasn't a random act of violence, it was calculated. But the public reaction, that's what really caught me off guard. Suddenly people started to see him differently. Some called him a hero, a few even suggested that maybe, just maybe, he had done what many were too scared to do. So now we were left with this question, was Luigi Manzioni an alleged killer or was he a hero? Because in the eye of many, he wasn't just a man who had allegedly killed a CEO. He was someone who had taken a stand against a system that had hurt so many for long. And you know what? That's the thought that keeps you up at night wondering what if he wasn't so wrong after all. And you know what? I have been thinking about it a lot. When we talk about healthcare, we always hear the same promises: affordable care, coverage for all, and support in times of need. But let's face it, what happens when the promise isn't kept? What happened when you're stuck between high premiums, mounting medical bills, and the constant fight for coverage? It feels like you are on your own, doesn't it? That's the reality for so many people right now. UnitedHealthcare, one of the biggest names in the industry, is at the center of this storm. It's hard to ignore that while they are racking in massive profit, everyday people are drowning in medical debt. You have probably heard stories of individuals with insurance still facing thousands of dollars in medical bills. It doesn't add up, and certainly it doesn't feel fair. It's almost as if the system is allegedly designed to benefit the companies at the top, not the people who need it most. And I get it, the frustration is real. It's not just about the money, it's about the sense of betrayal. People are looking for answers, and for many, they are running out of patience. As of now, according to the news, Manzioni had chronic back pain and struggled to get the care he needed. Imagine waiting for treatments and surgery only to be caught in the endless loop of denials and delays for insurance companies. Can you feel that frustration building? At some point, you stop trusting the system and start questioning it. Maybe for Manzioni, it becomes too much. That was his breaking point. In the moment of anger, when he finally confronted that the healthcare system had failed him, he allegedly did something that no one could have anticipated. On the bullet used in the crime, there was a chilling message: delay, deny, defend. It was more than just a declaration. It was a desperate cry for justice. What had he lost in the system that had pushed him to this extreme? The message he allegedly left on the bullet was like a warning to those who had the power, to those who had taken so much from him and from so many others. It was as if he was saying, this was the only way I can make you see how broken everything really is. And as his story spreads, in some ways he became the voice for everyone who has ever felt helpless in the face of a system that doesn't care. I mean, how else do you explain the rise of his story? How else do you make sense of someone driven to such an extreme act? Sure, killing a person isn't the answer. But when a system fails so many people, when you feel like no one's listening, can we really blame someone for feeling like they have got nothing left to lose? And maybe we have all heard about it before. This system is broken. We read it in news, hear it on social media, maybe even say it ourselves when we are frustrated by the way things seems to work or don't work. But when it comes to the healthcare system in US, those words carry weight, real weight. So when we look at the bigger picture, we have to ask ourselves, what does this say about us as a society? What does it say about our values? About how we treat people who rely on us, who trust us to make decisions in their best interest? And the more importantly, what we are willing to do to fix it.